One bitter cold night in the winter of 1934, Mrs. Harris.
Good morning, Richfield. It is finally Friday, TGIF. I have a guest with me today. Well, first of all, I'm Amy. Susan is out again. She's busy doing something today, so I asked Dustin Beckner to join me. And Dustin is one of our speech therapists at the health center. And May was Better Speech and Hearing Month, and Dustin did not get a chance to join us. So I kind of twisted his arm, and he's joining us today. So Dustin, he's also one of our newest rehab employees, team members who have joined. So do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Dustin. I have been a speech therapist going on just about a year now. I used to be a per-requested need speech therapist here, so whenever they needed a little extra help, they would call me. I would come in for a few hours. But I officially switched over, and I am here full-time now as of about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I attended James Madison University and got my bachelor's degree, and then I transitioned and went to Radford University, and that's where I received my master's degree in speech therapy.
Yeah, and Dustin is working here at Salem, but once our Roanoke campus opens, he will be one of our speech therapists there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they'll be sad to lose him here, but we'll be happy to have him in Roanoke too.
Yeah.
So Dustin, we're going to talk about memory today.
Absolutely.
And that's something that speech therapists work with and test and help people develop.
All day, every day.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I think speech therapists, maybe we have some of the worst memories.
Absolutely,
Even though we help people develop theirs.
Yep.
So let's talk about some facts. So memory is fascinating to me, and if you ever look up memory, you can find sources and sources of articles and books, whole books written about memory because it is so fascinating. But we retain memories, different types of memories in different, depending on the length of time that we can hold those memories down. So different memories are held down at different lengths of time. So for example, we have short and long-term memory, and I think we all know that.
Yeah.
Do you know how long short-term memory typically lasts?
So yeah, short-term memory actually can last for a few seconds up to a few hours. It just really depends on the type of information you're receiving and how long you need to receive that information to recall it. And then you look at long-term memory, and that can last, from hours up to years and years. All of that is that really good information that you need to know for the long term.
So that's like, if you ask me what I had for dinner last night, I don't know if I'd be able to tell you, maybe.
Right.
But if you asked me what vacation did I go on when I was 3 years old,
Exactly.
I could probably tell you that. So that's stored differently than that short term.
Yep.
So if you've heard your kids or your grandchildren talk about cramming for a test.
That is absolutely about as short term as it gets.
That's right. You cram it in there, you hang on to it for whatever, the hour or the few hours before your test, and then you're able to, most of the time, hopefully, able to just kind of regurgitate that information.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also something called working memory.
There is.
And working memory kind of helps us hold stuff for a short period of time. So that's not really a short-term memory, though, right?
Right. Working memory is something that's really on its own, and it's something that not very many people know of. It's not something that we talk about a ton, but working memory lets us keep something in our minds for just a very short limited of time, and then you're able to just repeat it. So typically that works for like phone numbers, if you need to know how much something costs, or you need to remember somebody's address just really short term, you just put it in your brain for a little while just to keep it there, and then you expel it, and that's usually it.
Yeah. And you have you can't recall it, later in the day, right?
You just need it to work right then, and then that's it.
Yes, I do that all the time. I'm like 2538. Remember that, 2538.
Especially for a passcode.
Exactly, right? Or a door or something like that, exactly. And typically, people can hold about what, 5 to 6 pieces of information?
Yep, about 5 to 6. You could go up to 8 or 9, but 8 or 9's getting to be a lot for your brain to control.
And that's why, when you have to think about a phone number,
Right.
we can kind of put that in our working memory, and then, once we get to our phone, we can punch it in.
Right.
I'm not so good at that.
Yeah, no,
obviously, I'm on the low end of the working memory.
There's a lot of strategies that go into having to remember things like that.
Yes. And so that's a good segue,
Yeah.
because how can we improve memory? So from a speech perspective, I know that's something that we assess. We do
Right.
assess people's memory. How do we help improve it?
So a lot of times there are a couple different ways that we can help to improve memory. A lot of times when we do the evaluation on someone and we're looking at their memory, there's things that we can do to either restore or to compensate and adapt for memory deficits. So a lot of times if you're looking to restore your memory, you're going to want to do some exercises for it. There's going to be some times where I might come in and see you and say, hey, let's sit down and let's exercise your brain and work on that memory for right now. And that can be anything from me giving you a list of 3 words or 3 items, whether that's completely random or whether they're similar, and I give you 3 different fruits. And all I want you to do is recall it right back to me.
Right.
And then other things that we look at, maybe those memory skills aren't improving. Maybe there's something that for now we've lost. That's part of typical aging. When you get older, you're going to lose some of your memory. That's normal. But we look at things to compensate for that, and we'll teach you some tricks and some strategies. Like sometimes the biggest one that we teach is something called a WRAP strategy. So that stands for writing something down, repeat, associate, and picture. So think of wrapping a present. That's exactly how you want to remember it. WRAP. So writing things down, that's the biggest one. I use it all the time.
Me
I'm sure
too.
you probably use it all the time.
Yes.
If I didn't write things down, there's no way I could do my job on a day-to-day basis. So usually that works for things that you need to maybe know for a long term, like somebody's phone number that you're going to want to talk to on a day-to-day basis, or like an address that you need to know that you need to get to for an event you want to attend. Associate is one that, that really depends on the person, whether it works or not. For me, association is not a trick that I use all the time. And when you think about associating a piece of information, you want it to be something that is personal to you, that you can think of.
Right.
So especially if you think of like when I do an exercise with someone and I give them the word house and I say associate that with a memory for me. It's got to be really personal for it to work effectively.
Right.
Repeating always works really well. Typically if it's really short pieces of information. So good example that I like to teach people. If you're going to the store, you need bread, eggs, and milk. That's the only 3 things you need. Repeat it to yourself out loud the exact same way 3 times in a row. Typically, it'll put it right into your head, and you just go right back to it. I need bread, eggs, and milk. Okay, I got that when I get to the store.
Yeah.
So, and then the last one, picturing, kind of like association, doesn't always work for everyone. Takes a certain person for it to work for, but being able to come up with the word house and then think, okay, what did that house look like to me?
Right, exactly.
Really get a vivid image in your brain, and that usually helps for things to stick a little while.
That's great.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with using strategies to help you.
Absolutely. And the more you use, the better.
That's right. So I'm always writing lists or sticky notes. I put sticky notes everywhere, or I set an alarm on my phone to remember something. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I found some other really interesting ways that is supposed to help your memory. I'd never heard of this one. Had you heard of the clenching?
I had not heard of this one.
Okay, so online I found this, that if you're trying to remember something, and hopefully we don't have to remember, test taking or pieces of information that don't, that aren't very meaningful. But if you clench your right hand when you're learning the information, and then clench your left hand when you're having to recall that information, just that motion is supposed to help you remember.
I'm going to have to try that out.
Are you right-handed?
I am right-handed.
Okay, because that's the caveat to this. The studies that have been done on this, they found this was only effective for people who are right-handed, which is another hit to the lefties out there.
Of course. They always get the hits.
I know. So you and I talked about this one. You knew about this one, but chewing gum. Like if you're trying to remember something, if you chew gum and you had another piece of information to add to that.
When I was growing up, like in school, mostly middle school and high school, anytime we were going to take a test, most of our teachers would provide us with a peppermint. And, I never really understood until I actually got into grad school and learning how to do this job why it's that way. So what they know from research and from science is that anytime you have a peppermint or a mint flavored, that menthol in the peppermint actually stimulates what we call your hippocampus, which is a little part in your brain that controls like your mental clarity and your ability to recall things. And it stimulates it so that your memory is much better.
You know that I'm going to sound like I should have known this, but that's why, people who use oil diffusers and mint is really supposed to help with mental clarity.
Yeah,
and
it helps with stimulation.
Yeah, I like that. Interesting. Yeah. So yes, chewing gum, that especially if it's mint gum, like you said, will really help kind of stimulate that information that you were trying to remember.
Absolutely.
Here's another interesting one, and I used to do this all the time, but isn't it interesting how quickly we can remember the words to a song?
Right, you can listen to it twice and then you have it.
Yes, and you got it. So if you have to study information or need to recall something, if you put it to a tune, you can do Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever it is. But I do that a lot of times. It's not to a tune, but I just sing stuff.
And that's what so often two things that we don't talk about as a speech therapist is how much we use music in therapy.
Yes.
Or how we'll collaborate with music therapy and speech therapy.
Right.
It can help you recall things just like that.
It's huge.
It is.
And when you hear a song on the radio, doesn't it just trigger you to, whatever event was going on when you heard that song, a prom or a dance or whatever it was?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We talked about association. There's another thing called chunking. And you might be able to give us more detail about chunking, but basically it's if you have a large piece of information, it's kind of taking those pieces and sort of chunking them together to help you remember. So like you could chunk, if you had a list of words, you could chunk them into animals or household items, depending on what category they belong in.
Exactly.
So,
and a lot of times you can do it with phone numbers too.
Yes.
Well, you have those 3 numbers and then the dash, 3 numbers, a dash, and then the 4 numbers. We'll just teach you how to chunk it. All right, just put those first 3 numbers together.
Right.
Then let's keep going through the process. The second 3 and then the last 4.
Yes. And so I saw my children do this a lot. So one chunking technique is acronyms.
Yep.
So, for example, if you're trying to remember the Great Lakes, I can remember them talking about homes. So the first letter of each of the lakes combine to make the word home. So that's Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior.
I'm glad you knew that.
I wrote it down.
Well, good strategy there.
Because I don't know those. And there's another one that's similar, but this is called acrostics. It's when you make up a phrase. So you don't take, if you use, again, the lakes, the Great Lakes, instead of homes, you would have a phrase, hovering on my extreme skateboard. So the first letter of each of those, the words in the phrase make up the Great Lakes.
A good little mnemonic.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's lots of strategies, and we all know how important it is. We've talked about brain health before on 1111, and we know how important it is to keep our minds sharp and really to exercise it. And
Absolutely.
Some things we could do: crossword puzzles. We've talked about word searches, Sudoku. Honestly, when I Googled memory games for adults, there are a bunch of electronic games, free games that you can play on your computer.
Absolutely.
If you ever wanted to, just kind of do some mental aerobics, so to speak.
Any stimulation for your brain is better than none at all.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And they also suggest, try something new, learn to do something. If you've never, crocheted before or taken an exercise class, yoga or something like that, try it.
Trying to learn some new task.
Exactly.
Right.
So, to close, would you like to do a memory test?
Oh, I will try my best.
All right. So, you'll be a guinea pig.
Okay.
So, I have 2 sets of 15 words.
Okay.
But we learned that normally you can keep either 5 to 6 words or 8 to 9.
Up to 8 or 9,
right.
yeah.
So, let's start with 8
Okay.
to begin with. Or let's warm you up.
Yeah, start
we'll
easy,
do 5.
please.
Okay. We'll do 5. And we'll see if Dustin can recall these. Okay. Retire, vision, spatula, wonder, ape.
Retire, vision, spatula, wonder, ape.
Good. 100%.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to do 8 this time, okay?
Okay.
All right. You got a quick warm up. Okay. Ice, children, monitor, truly, male, cord, market, tulip.
Ice, truly, monitor, male, cord, truly. A monitor? Did I say that one?
You did.
That's all I got for you.
That was good. You said truly twice.
So what, I get like 3?
No, you got 6.
Okay.
So that's really good. All right, let's do one more.
Okay.
I'm not going to torture you too much.
Okay.
We'll do 6, okay?
Okay.
All right. Person, find, distance, jacket, round, soldier.
Person, find, distance, jacket, round, soldier.
Excellent.
There we go.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad that I gave you the quiz and didn't
Right.
take it because I would not do well.
If I could write it down, it might have gone a whole lot better.
Absolutely. And there's
know?
another strategy. That's right.
Exactly.
If you can write it down, write it down. But a lot of times we have to remember something when we're driving or,
exactly.
so it's good to exercise.
Absolutely.
So Dustin's going to come back in a couple of
Yes.
months after exercising his brain and he'll be able to get all 15 words.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
joining us.
Thank
it
you
was
for
fun
having
to talk
me.
about memory, and
Yeah.
it's like we said, it's fascinating. So, if you have a topic that you want us to discuss, let us know,
Yep.
and we'll be happy to do that. So, I'm going to say goodbye and let you know that I won't see you for a couple of weeks because I'm actually going to be going out of town for vacation. So, Susan will hold down the fort, and I will see you in a few weeks when I get back. I hope you all have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Same to you all.
Bye bye.
Bye.